Hello, my name is Daniel Brown. I'm the manager of the LN Academy for Lucas Nuller. We specialize in electric vehicle training and automotive training in general, but have been heavily involved in electric vehicle training for the last 10 or so years. And I just want to give you a bit of an overview from our perspective of what some of the challenges are that we might face for the automotive sector. So I think going forward, there's certainly some safety and knowledge requirements that will need to be addressed. Obviously, some technical knowledge and competencies that will need to be developed as well for the existing technicians. And one of the questions is, how can we summarize perhaps this safety and technical knowledge and standardize it and hopefully even qualify this type of training? So a little bit of an interesting statistic here. So as currently, we partner with an organisation called the Institute of the Motor Industry out of the UK, and they estimate that only 6.5% of automotive technicians are qualified to work on high voltage vehicles. So it's not even the highest level of qualification, that's a very low level, but obviously that's something we need to address very soon. If we have a look at the safety side of things, I think there's some particular points as well there. So we need to understand what the dangers of live high voltage are, that there is a certain PPE, which is personal protective equipment, and appropriate tools that are required for high voltage as well. And one of the other large safety aspects is follow the isolation procedures and verify that the vehicle is free from voltage, so it's then safe to be worked on. So knowing what the correct gloves, helmet, visors, shields, things like that, the tools that are required for high voltage, and also the measurement devices as well, that they're at the correct level. So I've got here also a little quick video just to explain what the need of that is. So I'll just go forward a little bit here just so we can see that quickly. But this is a current flowing through a high voltage connector, and what happens if that connector is pulled apart while that current is flowing. You can see this is why we need this particular equipment, safety equipment. We have a look at some of the things that makes us a little bit sad as well. We can see people here working on high voltage batteries with either little or no safety equipment or the completely wrong safety equipment. And we need to be aware of these unsafe work procedures and begin to develop a culture of safety. So making sure that people, when they work on these vehicles, they're doing it directly, using the correct gloves, tools, safety equipment that's required. One of the things that we've done, this is some of the equipment that we produce, and one of the things we've done was we've partnered with various world skills organizations from around the world. So for example, this was the Skill Station at Kazan 2019. We've been at Skills USA for a number of years now. Also World Skills France, Germany, plus many others are using this to help bring awareness to the fact that we need to be training our young people on these types of vehicles. So this is the system being used at World Skills in 2018. This was our first time there, and it was an introduction to the topic of hybrid electric vehicles. The system, the skill station was a system identification and a shutdown procedure, and the students were given a full documentation on how to perform that. And our plan is to extend this each year into more and more difficult tasks as the topic of hybrid electric vehicles becomes more mainstream and people are aware that this will be here every year. Our first year actually brought some very poor results. There was less than 50% of the participants had ever had any high voltage experience, not with the vehicles, but even being taught that at the school level. They had a very poor knowledge of the PPE required and the specialized tools, even when it was written in documentation what they needed to do. So they weren't using the correct gloves, They were removing the components, high voltage components, without the equipment and things like that. And with our scoring system, we found out that many participants triggered what we call a critical event, and if they were working on a real vehicle, had the potential to get themselves very badly hurt. If we have a look at the technical side of the challenges, these are completely new technologies for existing technicians. So we're looking at high voltage batteries, inverters, three-phase motors, DC to DC converters, insulation testing, potential equalization testing, things like that. This is areas that have never been seen before in conventional vehicles and conventional training, and it's going to require a lot of input and a lot of reskilling to understand this. Obviously, to maintain or to diagnose and to repair something, you need to have a high level of knowledge. Again, this is what we use the system for. It's used at a lot of schools, and it gives the students some hands-on, what we call blended learning. There's an e-learning that goes with this, and they can also implement this on this system. These tests that you see here would be very difficult or very unsafe to perform on a real car. So it's a way to begin to develop the knowledge and the skills required to understand what these vehicles, or understand how these vehicles work. Some of the different testing and procedures that you can do on the system are shown there as well. So the high voltage battery, obviously a huge part of electric vehicles. Here we see a couple of examples from the real world and some facts about the lithium-based high voltage batteries from a technician perspective. So these are now considered a dangerous good. We can't just ship them around the countries. Before, with the nickel metal hydride batteries, it wasn't such a big issue. We could send them to a dedicated repair center, they get sent back and everything's okay. Lithium batteries can't be shipped around that well, so there's a pressure on dealerships now to repair these batteries themselves. This is obviously an issue that more and more people will need to be trained to this high level. And another thing that you can see here, these batteries are very well sealed, and often the cover that you see here is sometimes destroyed when they're open. So there's a bit of a reluctance to open these up for training. So, and you can see that here also, very high energy, up to 100 kilowatts within these batteries sometimes. So it's not something that people really want to explore with and to insert faults. For example, a lot of the standards talk about how people need to understand what the faults are within the side of the battery. Old way of doing things, you would get a vehicle, put a fault into it, and the student would need to find that. There's a huge reluctance to do that. And of course, high voltage batteries are always contain high voltage even when the vehicle is shut down. So that's another point of danger. And again, how we go about this is we have a high voltage battery trainer which is used to cover those topics. We can insert the faults here in a safe manner, but also in a realistic manner as well. Bit of a short video here which shows that you can actually go through and rebuild the battery as you would in a real vehicle, and can do many procedures and understanding there. But as far as the qualifications is concerned, this is the IMI Institute of the Motor Industry that we, as I mentioned before, we partner with. And they offer international qualifications, the only organization in the world that offer these international qualifications. We have many schools around the world that use these qualifications. So there's up to 4 levels. Something interesting here is the first responder qualification. So hazard management for fire, firefighters, police, tow truck operators, etc. And then we have the technician level here, and EV4 would be the working, for example, on the high voltage battery, which is the highest level of qualification required for electric vehicles. And as we mentioned there, something that's often forgotten about is the firefighters, what they need to know when they come to an accident vehicle. Is the vehicle safe? How can they make the vehicle safe? What can be touched? What must be avoided? And what are some of the non-technical, more awareness trainings that they need in order to work with these vehicles?